Brenda, asante sana. Thank you for creating time to be here. I'm so excited for the conversation we are going to have because I've known you for some time. I think almost 10 years now. Yeah,
More than
so
that.
welcome.
Thank you very much, Gladys, and thank you
Yes.
for having me. It's really a great pleasure to be here and to speak to your audience. And I know they're gonna be inspired. Yep.
They will, and they better be inspired because your story is very interesting. And like I was telling you, I was checking, I was trying to read more about you because I think we had lost touch briefly. And God, you have such an illustrious career. You've spent just to read a few, like I was reading from LinkedIn that you are now a manufacturing manager at Lipton Teas, and you will tell us about all that. Like, what does that involve? You spent 7 years in Coca Cola, and you were heading several positions there, and all the way back to EABL when you were starting your career. So Leo, I'm very excited because we'll be mostly, I think I've hosted guys who've been mostly in academia, like research, PhD, and university. And I'm very excited so that you give us, because you'll be giving us like the industrial perspective, and especially as a woman in STEM, and you've risen really high, high ranks in like multinational companies. So yes, what are you, Nini? Tell us about what your current position and what are you doing at Lipton?
Thank you very much, Dr. Gladys. I am currently working in one of the biggest tea plantation in Kenya. As we all know, Kenya exports tea as one of the biggest exports that we do in Kenya. I am based in Kericho. I run one of the factories of Lipton Teas and Infusion, and my role is a manufacturing manager. For me, I see myself as part of the team. So many times when people ask me what's your role title, I'd rather tell you that I'm just running a factory, because in essence, I'm running a group of people together for us to convert the green leaf into a product we call made tea, or black tea. So I run a factory that 120 tons green leaf capacity. That's I think that number looks big. Yeah, we receive green leaf from our estates, and I'm sure most of us have either been to Kericho and they have seen the beauty plantation. So that's where our raw material comes from that beauty green plantation in Kericho. We take that green leaf and we take to the factory and process it into made tea, which then will be graded into different grades depending on the customer, what they would love. That's where we send them to our different markets in this world. So that's what I'm currently busy doing. Previously, perhaps I could give you a whole journey of my career. Previously, before coming to Lipton Teas, I worked with Coca Cola Beverages Africa for 7 years. Sometimes I pause and ask myself, how did 7 years just flew like that? For 7 years in Coca Cola, I started as a junior supervisor. We call it a team leader. I was running a group of people to produce the beverage Coke that we all love. And after that, I moved into another senior manager. Not senior per se, it's just mid-level management. I will call it mid-level, as a unit manager in charge of processing. That's when I moved from Embakasi, and then I moved to the Coca-Cola plant in Kisumu. While in Kisumu, I worked with a group of people. So processing is essentially the kitchen bit of making the beverage, where you mix the ingredients as per the instructions for making the beverage, and you convert it into a beverage in the production line. So that's where I pretty spent my first year, and that was one of my first management role that I would consider a stepping stone, and something that I really learned a lot of lessons, because now I was in charge of a department. And when we moved to that plant with a group of people, because there was some changes in management, when I moved there, there were need to change the culture, the way people were looking at, because we were acquiring this new plant from an Indian, and it meant that a whole ball game where you have to look at changes and implementing changes so that people can develop standardized ways of working. And that's when I grew my passion in doing what you call operational excellence, which then informed the next role that I took up. So it's been a journey of taking challenges and coming up with passion. If I tell you I'm a trained analytical chemist and I am, yes, in manufacturing, and it looks like it's related, but over time I have transformed myself from one role to the other and taking challenges on head on. Yes.
Yes. No, I have so many follow-up questions. Let's start from and we were chatting before we started this recording. We were chatting about how, like, I was just guessing that for you, leadership is almost natural, I think, because of your personality. And I know you also, like, you are intentional about honing your leadership skills. Yeah, tell me talk more about how and we were comparing, right? I was telling you, coming from engineering background, I think most of us engineers, we are taught to just, like, do your calculations, do your work, and we are not very, like, dealing with people is not our stronghold. Yeah, so how do you tell me about leadership? Like, what are some of the, I don't know, like, some strategies that you use to make sure that you are leading effectively, that you are reaching out to people, that you are motivating your team? You told me you're leading, I don't know, right now you're leading so many people. Yeah, so talk about leadership and those things that you do and strategies that you use to be a good leader.
Thank you very much. I believe, and I belong to a school of thought that leadership is something that you can learn. And while there's also where we can say leadership is a born trait, or somebody is born a leader. I think my childhood and the fact that I am the firstborn, I think that prepared me pretty much for leadership roles. When I flash back to when I started my career, or even I look back at my teenagehood, the time I was in secondary school, I started picking up leadership roles from a young age. I was a prefect. I was a prefect almost all my life in high school. And people nicknamed me, interestingly, there were two Brendas, and there were Brenda Prefect and there was Brenda Raya, or the other Brenda who was not a prefect. When I look back, I could start looking at where I started picking up the leadership skills. And you can only be better by ensuring that you improve your leadership skills. And I'm very intentional about it. That's why I'm a member of Toastmasters International, where we talk about that, where leaders are made. Now, aside from all those things, I have looked at people are human beings. And so in everything that I do, I try to humanize my leadership. My leadership style in many times is situational, depending on the situation that is around there. When I started my career, or when I was a junior manager, when I was telling you about I moved to Kisumu, I was an autocratic kind of a leader, where it's my way or no other way. And it led into attrition, and some people left the people that I was leading, and then I was given feedback from the people that you are too strict on us. Then I picked up lessons along my journey in my career, and I learned that people, when pushed to the wall, they retaliate. People need somebody to lead them so that they can follow you. And there is no other way that you can have people to follow you if you do not humanize, or you don't be able to speak the language that they understand. For me, my biggest thing that I do is that I am very social. I am very social to an extent that sometimes I go sit with my people in the tea room and we take tea together and we talk. And I get to hear the things that is happening in the factory floor, for example. I look at them as first human beings before looking at them as the people that they need to deliver their results. And it's a mix. One of the other lessons that I picked as I've grown in my leadership skills that shaped the way I look at how I lead people is that I have two hands. And as a leader, as a manager, I need results. So I have to be tough on the results. But on the other hand, balance it being soft on people. Because these are people, these are human beings. You push them to deliver for you the results. You must be able to find a balance between being soft on being human being. And the challenges that you have is that sometimes people think that that they can always come to you and tell you, oh, today I'm not able to come to work, and I just want this to be changed. As a leader, it's also good to understand what are the policies surrounding it and what are the best practices in the business, or what are the best way to handle people. Because people can come and tell you all sorts of excuses. So it's always a tight balance. And at the end of the day, for me, what I look at is the impact to the business. And I also ensure that these people, I've handled them as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, truly. Me, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that you are a good leader. And I think we'll touch briefly later on about where we met during our undergrad at JKUAT, because I think you were also a leader there. And I feel like people just liked you. You have this magnetic personality, which is really cool. So I'm not surprised that you're doing very well over there. I wanted to paint a picture for us, like for someone who's not worked in an industry, in your position, like day to day or week to week, what is your average day like? You wake up in the morning, and then what do you do during the day?
My current role is dynamic, so it's not static. What I do today will not be the same as what I do tomorrow or the other day. For this role, it's a role that I lead. So where I work in the factory, for instance, I have a fellow managers that report to me, that we together run the factory operations. And then below them are a group of the employees. So we have about 230 and thereabout employees for that factory that run into different shifts. So for my role as a manufacturing manager, I start my day very early. There are a couple of things. There are systemic things that you put in place. There are things that you must approve in the system. For example, I check on my employees' well-being. There are a couple of admin things that you have to check into. You check about so we call that industrial relations, more of and every day will be different. So there is one bit I call it industrial relations. That's the day-to-day, the people that will come and tell you, I have this issue running in the factory, or reporting on what is happening. Then there are things that you may act immediately. There are things that you will say, I will consult and get some support somewhere else. Then there are structured communication, where we have several meetings for alignment with different departments. We have different departments because a factory does not work in isolation. You have a department that helps you to source your spare parts. You have that procurement. You have your HR to guide you on people relations. So depending on what is happening or what is your focus of the day, that's how you look at it. So it's not per se very well defined that you come in the morning and say, I'm supposed to do A, B, C, D. It's a job that is very dynamic, depending on what is happening. But most importantly, as a manufacturing manager, it is important that every day I have an area of focus. What do I want to focus on? Is it the safety of the machinery? So I will do an audit with my safety team, get feedback on what is happening, and then we handle it from the actions that we pick. Is it the food safety? Because we are manufacturing food. So I have as a kind of a plan of saying, today my focus is on safety. So my eyes will be picking out issues that are unsafe. And I will have a day that I will be focusing on product safety. There's a day I will focus on the level of effectiveness that we do the maintenance in our machines. The other days that we will sit with my team and talk about what can we do to improve our factory, because every day there are continuous improvement elements. We touch a section. There are days that I will focus on cost. But of course, when you're running a factory, cost is very critical, because it's important to know that, am I running cost effective? Is it making sense? the output and the inputs, what is my cost of production, and where else can I work on to improve, to become more efficient. And there's so many things in a day of a manufacturing manager, because at the end of the day is to bring the value to the business, to convert the raw material into the finished goods using minimal cost and ensuring that it is safe for the consumer. So that's pretty how I can paint a picture. Yeah, you'll have monthly meetings to recap on how your month has been. You look at your trends. Where am I heading in this factory, for example? How is my performance looking like? You also do performance reviews for your managers and sit to them and ask and confirm, where are we heading in the right direction? It's important to know where you are going, not how fast you're moving, because you can be moving very fast into the wrong direction. So it's critical to pause and say, where am I heading? Am I heading towards the business goal? Am I in line with the business strategy? And since our business is a bit, it's not, I will say tea industry is a business that is not static. There will be things to focus on a daily basis, very different. And you shift the focus so that you are able to have them working in the right direction.
No, great. No, thank you for explaining. I think I've gotten a rough picture of your role. I want you to touch on. I want you to speak on maybe one. I don't want to say really. I don't want to say negative, but like one thing that so far or in your role that you don't really like, or if you were to give it to someone else, you would gladly give it to someone else. And then maybe one thing that excites you the most with your role.
Let me start with what excites me.
Yes.
Thing that excites me, and because I am a people person and I love socializing, is that one thing that excites me most is speaking to people and getting feedback on how our factory has changed from the time that I joined to where, because I've been in that factory for the last 6 months. So what excites me is that in conversation with the people that I work with in the factory. The other thing that excites me most is when I have results of the tea that we made. There is normally a quality testing or a quality feedback that you get, that this is what you produced in this week, and then this is the result. So what excites me is when you look at the performance and you see an improvement. That's what excites me. Of course, there are ups and downs. There are days that your performance is really low. Then there are days that you feel like that it's like you are in control of that week and you are getting very good results. That excites me. One area that does not excite me is when you have to sit across the table and take somebody through disciplinary. Now I look at people and say, you are an adult, you came to work, you have a reason why you have this job. Then why are you becoming indisciplined? So there are tough conversations. That sometimes you sit across the table, you call the person and you issue them a disciplinary process to go through. Of course, you cannot miss people who are indisciplined, but I think that is one of those things that you look at that individual as a human being, as someone's father or someone's mother, and you're sitting here telling them, you're breaking the rules and you're not doing it right, and you've got to be tough. Of course, it's the part of management and it's the part of leadership that there is always that element. But if I was to give it to someone else to be doing that bit for me, I would gladly give out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can picture that. Yes. Now let's move. I want you, because you said you're relatively young in your current company, but then you mentioned that you spent 7 years at Coca Cola. Can we transition to Coca Cola and maybe just reflect to how was your experiences there? You rose pretty fast up the ranks. Yes, and you were leading different positions at that time at Coca Cola. Yes, let's reflect back to Coca Cola and your time in. I think you mostly spent that in Kisumu.
Yes, yes. I spent 5 years in Kisumu, and
Okay.
when I reflect back to the time that I worked in Coke, I mean, I smile because I look at how I grew for 7 years in 3 different positions. And one word that I can talk about what really propelled me to those heights was the fact that I was willing to always learn something new and always taking up challenges. There is a saying that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And what it means is that when you are really ready and passionate to take up something, there will be that opportunity. In Coke, I started my career as a team leader, like I mentioned before. I was in charge of a shift of because we run manufacturing or industry, we run in shifts. So you'll have 3 different people running, say, one shift, or 2 people, one during the day, the other one during the night, and then you will be swapping. So where I started is right there. I was a team leader in charge of a group of people in one shift, and then there will be the other team leader in the other shift. So that's where I started. And I was leading some people that they would consider themselves as my father, because I remember leading one gentleman when I wanted to tell him that, we need to meet these production targets. They look at me and they say, "My daughter." You were wondering, my goodness, where am I heading in this conversation? So what taught me at that time is that I had to come down to their level and be able to have this conversation. They looked at me as their daughter because I was young, but they also guided me in one way or the other. And that's when I realized that the most ingredient and most important thing in managing people is to be able to relate with them well. So when I moved from Embakasi to Kisumu, I took up a role of a unit manager. When I was doing that role of a unit manager in charge of processing, there were operational excellence that was coming up. Operational excellence in essence is continuous improvement. And when that was coming up, I remember my manager challenging me that, why don't you double up? Try to do this for us in the meantime before we really get a person to be in charge of this operational excellence. So I could do it. Was not a small job. It was, I have my unit to take care of, and I have this other thing that my manager has asked me to do, and I started liking it, and I started going for trainings, and I started being the one now to train people, because what Coca-Cola did for me is empowerment. One thing that I'm really proud of what Coca-Cola does for the employees is the element of training them and giving them the necessary information to excel in your role. And so when that opportunity came up, I was very quick to apply, because I had already practiced either way. I was doubling up in my as a unit manager and taking that role, and it was very exciting to get that role. I started working for Kisumu plant only, supporting them to implement the strategy. The strategy was called Supply Chain Ways, which I think they still do. And as I grew and gotten to learn the ropes of operational excellence, I started extending to the other plant that is in Molo, and the other plant that is in Eldoret. And soon we were just doing more of, you are working, yes, from one plant, but you are supporting these other sites. And since CCBA is not just in Kenya, it is in Africa, we started getting to support coaching, because thanks to the internet, we have Teams calls that you can call somebody in Tanzania, in Uganda, in Ethiopia, in South Africa. And that's how it exposed me now to even bigger teams and being able to lead teams. So when I reflect to Coca-Cola, I can only smile and really appreciate that organization. And Coca-Cola is a very good employer, I must say. Their systems are well in place, and that empowering of people to know their job and even defines for you what it takes to excel in a role. I think that's one thing that's really stood out for me for Coke. I can only attribute most of my growing, most of the lessons that I learned about leading people, how to put system in place to Coca Cola, because they have done that really very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. It's really nice to know. And also talking about intentionality, because I think when we spoke last time, I think you were still at Coca Cola, and I was asking you about Toastmasters, and I know you're really passionate about it. And I think I went to Toastmasters just briefly because I wanted to also improve, like in public speaking and all that. Yeah. Why? And I know when you were at Coca Cola, I think that is when you really went really deep into Toastmasters. So why did you want, like, where was the interest, where did you get the interest to join Toastmasters? And then for the be it in industry or wherever, especially like young women professionals, would you recommend them seeking such kind of opportunities to learn how to speak and all that?
So like I said, Coca-Cola, the most thing that really impacted me was the fact that Coca-Cola business, they empower their people. So I was in this program called Women in Leadership. So they look at the women in leadership, and as an outcome, they decided that most of the management needed to improve their public speaking skills or the way they do the presentation. And one of the projects that came out was Toastmasters. When Toastmasters was introduced to Nairobi bottlers, then I was my manager, and I am really grateful for this one manager called Isaac Nderitu. He told me one evening, "Do you have a plan for your evening?" And I was skeptical and asking myself, what is he up to? Then he took me to Toastmasters, and that is where I learned a lot of things, and I joined Toastmasters after that manager introduced me to. I highly recommend for anyone who is very keen in self-development and developing their leadership skills. Because what Toastmasters does is that it gives you a platform to practice public speaking in an environment that is so safe. What it does is that there exists a club of Toastmasters, and in a club meeting, for example, there are different ways a Toastmasters club meeting runs. It has 3 different segments. The one segment talking about prepared speeches is where you take a project, you come and give a speech in Toastmasters club. Then there will be somebody that will be listening in to give you feedback. You know, our society does not, we don't exist in a society that you normally get feedback. Most of the time, the feedback is normally the things that you didn't do well. But differently in Toastmasters meeting, you're given feedback on the things that you excelled, so that you are encouraged to know that there are things that you are doing better. And then you're told the things that you could do better. They use a method of feedback called sandwich. They tell you the good things, then they tell you the things that they think that you can work on, and then they close it again with the good things. That way, the confidence is built. The other element that Toastmasters does is that you are given opportunity to lead. And I was able to lead during my time when I was very active in Toastmasters as Vice President Education. You are then equipped, you taken through training on how to lead people. You're given all this support system. You will have even a mentor, somebody that will work with you and be guiding you. When you feel stuck, in Toastmasters as well, there's always somebody that will unstuck you and somebody that will always give you. So I would really recommend for any person that is really looking to work on their personal development and they are very keen to improve their public speaking skills. Because look, when you are at home or in any setup or in the society, you never fail a moment to be said, Gladys, say something. What will you say if you are public speaking, if you're scared? And many people really get scared to speak in public. It could be a church function, it could be in the society. And then leadership does not necessarily mean a title. You can be a leader in the society, you can be a leader in your church, you can be a leader in anywhere. So building those skills is helpful, and it goes a long way. One thing that I must thank Toastmasters for is that while I was working in Coca Cola, there was one instant that we had a leadership conference, and I was the MC of that a whole day function for the organization. Thanks to Toastmasters skills, I'm sure I could not have done it if I had not learned how to run a meeting effectively. Thanks to Toastmasters skills that really equipped me. And I remember even when I was taking that challenge to become an MC of that of the conference, or of that a whole day leadership connect, I called my mentor, and they quickly guided me. And so you get a lot of benefits. You get the networks, which in Toastmasters, you get people that are intentional about growing their public skills. And what is more interesting than to be able to work with people that have the same mindset as you are. So highly recommend to somebody that wants to develop themselves.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And I think I should definitely go back as well. Because I think, like you mentioned, I really like the deliberate practice of speaking, because it's a skill that needs practicing and someone to give you feedback. Yeah. So thank you for touching on that. I want to ask, through reflecting back to, you also spent some time before Coca Cola. You did spend some time at EABL. What were you doing at EABL?
That was one of the junior role I did was a quality analyst. I was analyzing alcohol to make sure that it is safe for the consumer and it meets the customer requirements. Before that, before EABL also, I worked that. So this is my fourth employer, Lipton. So my first employer was called Tropical Heat. I know you must have seen the crisps and the spices called for Tropical Heat. So that's where I started my career. Then I moved to EABL, where I was also doing quality analysis of alcohol. One of the most interesting bits when I was working in EABL, if you have seen Tusker cider, I know some people love that or partake it. When that product was being introduced, I was among those quality analysts that were running up and down to ensure that it meets the requirements. And that was one of the exciting bits that I had in my career in EABL. And the one thing that also
so which side is that?
The one that is in clear glass. I am not sure whether it is still in clear glass. It is called Tusker cider.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I think I've seen it somewhere. Yes.
Yes. So during those inception times, when they were trialing the product, so I was the young person running around with a white dust coat to analyze, is it meeting what they have researched? When they were launching it, we needed to produce that product very quickly. There were so many tests that we were doing, and that was one of the most exciting bits that I did while I was working in EABL for that 1 year. Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask, because I think we met when we met. Were you doing your internship at Ketepa?
Yes.
When we met there.
Yes.
And I remember, because you were, I think you had spent some time there, and I remember, maybe even you've forgotten, but I remember when I arrived, you sat me down and you were like, this is how you should this is how you should behave in this factory. It's like male dominated, and if you want to speak your point, you have to be assertive and no nonsense. You should not entertain. Some of these guys are jokers, and they might mess up with your life. We were in campus. Did I even know like how industry is like? You gave me so many very hot points that I've never forgotten. Like that was when 2013. Like it's 10 years plus, but I've never forgotten. And I think that is why like mentorship, right? Like that's why someone like when you have a mentor or someone who like tells you as it is, and they're like, I've been there, I'm a woman as well, it's a male dominated industry, you have to be like this. So I wanted to ask this question of how do you I don't know if you ever feel, because I know you've been all those positions and the companies you've been and the departments, it's like male dominated. So the question is about women in tech or women in business. I imagine it's been lonely, so to speak. But yes, how do you handle such things? I don't know, like harassment in industry. Inaitwaje? I'm looking for the right word, like madharau. Like if someone sees you and you are a young woman, like you had mentioned about someone saying my daughter, how do you navigate those things? First of all, have you met those things, and like how do you navigate? And while you are speaking, I'm trying to picture this young woman fresh from campus, and they are picturing themselves in your position where you are now, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line. So while you are speaking this, I'm hoping that they can pick one or two things as they begin their careers in the industry.
Yes.
You've
asked a couple of questions, but first let me agree with you first that I work in a male dominated, and when I was in Coca Cola, I think most of the time I would find myself look around and I'm the only female, and I always have had this running in my mind that while I'm the only female, I do not show up at work as a female, because where do you put the femininity in me? I mean, my hands are not female. My head is not female. My thinking is not female. So first, I tell myself I have showed up to work as a professional. Whoever I will have on the table, these are my colleagues, whether they are male or female. We are all colleagues, and I am bringing in my expertise to the table. So that is always my ruling, my guidance, or my rule of thumb. The rule of thumb is I am just a professional and an expert in my field, and it just happened that I am the female here. However, my hands are not female, my head is not female. I'm just a professional. I have made a couple of challenges. Those challenges that has helped me to draw a boundary. One of the challenges that I think I met, and I always kept challenging people, is the fact that you're in a meeting and everyone is looking around and they want somebody to take the minutes. Who do they look at? The female. Or there's a cup of tea and it is served, it is somewhere there. They expect you to probably wake up, go bring the tea for everyone else. I learned it that no, I am not by default your secretary. I also need to weigh in my content, because when you're busy as a secretary, you know people will not have the time to speak your mind and to weigh in or bring in the content. So I said I sometimes decline. And while I was working in Coca Cola, what I did was, let us do a rota. We are all of us, 7 of us, for example, in this team. Let's do a rota of who does the minutes. When it is my time, it's okay. When it is your time, it is your time. So that way, it's more or less introducing a system to ensure that you're not taken advantage of, or it's not being biased to you. The other thing that I have learned is to, when at work, and for example, there is tea showing up, it is normal female what do I say? The natural way, if you're a female and the rest are men, and you will see a cup of tea coming, it's normal to just wake up and say, let me serve these people, because of the motherly instinct that we have. But for me, I sit and I say, guys, there's a cup of tea there, and I do not serve anyone. And I have learned to be intentional about it, because if not, you will already be bringing yourself down by yourself. That when you mentioned about what I told you in Ketapa, I smiled, because honestly, that's what I tell every young girl, to be assertive. And if you are told you are stubborn or you are bossy, I want them to know that they are leaders. So what I tell people is that if you do not draw the boundary early, you will be vulnerable. So it's good to always be firm, because when you are a woman, you are already vulnerable. The fact that you're a woman or you're a female, there is just that element that you are the woman. You are the girl, and you stand and be firm. I receive feedback that sometimes it is very interesting, and sometimes I said, I see. You would say that, is it your emotions, or are you in that period of the month? How they make to look at it, like to make you feel like, to make you feel you're the woman, and you're the woman in you is bringing something in this conversation. But you say no, and you stand strong. Sometimes when you are starting and when you are young, it's not easy to really bring it out. But as you grow, you realize that the only way to be is to draw a boundary, so that people know very clearly that there are things that are a no-go zone for this person. And people treat you the way you present yourself. If you are never, you're always wishy-washy. For example, you're not saying no to things as when there's something that feels like somebody is going to take an advantage of you, and you're not really coming out whether you're saying a no or a yes. You don't know what you want to. I have never been taken advantage of, but I know of a friend of mine that really got a very tough time when one male manager was really pursuing her. I didn't know that this guy, the gentleman, was pursuing this lady for other reasons. And I remember she asked me, can you accompany me to go and see manager so and so? And so I could not understand, why are you asking me? And I said, anyway, I didn't know what was going on, only for me to learn later on that I was there as a protection to her. And she said how much that person has really pursued her, wanted how do I say, additional benefits apart from just because you are a manager. And when I remember sitting down with her, I told her that sometimes you have to say no. And in Kiswahili we say kama ni mbaya ni mbaya, tusonge mbele. If a manager or a male manager is telling you or promising a young girl that, if you agree to sleep with me, I will promote you. Even if they have the power to promote you, you will be sustaining that job through sleeping with that person. And I am sure nobody wants to be always at work and you're feeling like, for me to sustain this job, I must always be giving out for you. It's so bad. And for me, I really feel very bad when people are taken advantage. And it is really very, very painful, because that is, for me, I tell men, this could be your sister, could be your mother, could be your own wife that you are, because I look at it as bullying. Why are you bullying this person because they are female? You want to sleep with them, or you are looking at them. Why are you looking at them as an object? Because that's disrespect. If your wife were being taken advantage in this manner, how would you feel? If your own sister was going through the same thing, how would you feel? So it's really sometimes also very painful. But I tell women to protect themselves, be assertive, say no. If you feel like this person is going and they are using their own power, do not be vulnerable and do not give in. There are people who say it is a shortcut to getting a better position. But are you going to sustain it through sleeping, say, for example, with that manager? For how long? What will you be doing? How will you be sustaining it? Yeah. And it's better that you just stand firm and say no and let people know your stand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for explaining and sharing those stories, because I think some people might go through some of these things and then they feel like, is there something wrong with me, and then stigma, and they may never even speak about it. Yeah. I hope workplaces can be better, but yeah, thank you for sharing that. Another thing that I think is women, I feel like it's mostly a women topic, or a topic that that falls in the women side is a work-life balance. I know you have a family, beautiful kids, and you're doing really well as a mother and doing well in the industry. Let's talk about work-life balance. I think everyone is asking about that. Like, how do you balance your family and work?
I will surprise you today and tell you there's no such a thing as work-life balance. We call
What?
it integrating life. When somebody told me the concept, it hits me that really the thing that we are all looking at it and saying work-life balance. I ask someone, and I will ask even you, when does it stop me from becoming a mother of my children or being the wife and switching to become an employee or the manager? In essence, I am the whole total human being. I am Brenda. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter-in-law. I'm a sister to someone, and then my three children expect total attention to them. And then when I go to work, they also expect me to be totally 100% present. For me, what I look at it as integrating life and work and living an integrated life. When I'm at work, I give my 100%. And when work comes to an end and I come home, I become 100% present at home and be intentional with the time that I spend with my children. If it includes me sitting down and creating the things, the homework, the CBC. All my children are in CBC. Firstborn is in grade 5. I have a grade 1. Then I have a toddler, almost turning 2 in the next few months. When I'm at home, I am fully their mother. And I fully make sure that time is fully quality. When I go to work, I have to be present at work 100% and deliver the value. So I'll call it integrating life. I am also intentional about family time and the weekends that I'm able to have from work. I will try my best to be able to be present and be at home. When I'm supposed to be at work, I will go at work. So interestingly, the work-life balance is a bubble, because for me, there is no point that you stop being the worker or the employee and now start becoming family person. And there is no time you stop being family person and now you are at work. Because you can be called at work and you'll be called, mommy, there is some emergency that you need to address. Do you say, no? I'm at work. Right now, I'm supposed to be balancing work. You will rush and attend that emergency. You will run and go and sort whatever it is that your family is going through. And then you'll come back to work and be able to deliver the value. For me, it's being present at whatever moment of my life that I am in. If I have to go to see my in-laws, I have to be fully present and deliver what I'm expected to deliver as a daughter-in-law. If I have to go see my parents, I go there and I leave the title at the factory. I leave the title wherever it is and be now that present title that I am wearing or that cap I am wearing.
I really like that perspective that one doesn't end somewhere. You can just kind of, pause some work responsibilities and whatever, but like they kind of interchange and you find some balance. I really like that.
True. The most also important thing is to have a support system. Like you mentioned, I have 3 children. Somebody has to help me to get them to school, or they need someone at home. There's somebody that ensure that my domestic life is balanced. So you ensure that you have that support system. And I'm grateful for me, because personally, I've had a nanny for 7+ years. I think almost now 10. The same person we've lived together. Sometimes people think she's my sister, and I agree she's my sister, and also the mother of my children, because when I am not there, she's able to complement. So it's important that you invest in your support system, having that support system. Let me surprise you. There are days that I come to work late. I come from work I come home late, very late, because somehow my responsibilities in the factory there are things that I have to do and complete, and sometimes you come late in the night. If I did not have a support system, my children will not be eating and they will not be going to bed because they're waiting for me to come and complete those tasks. So that support system enables me to be able to be at peace at work. And when I come home, I know this has been done. And that's the only way that you also agree. Because when you're a career woman, for example, there are things that you will agree that you may not be doing them. You may not have the time to be washing the clothes, to be cleaning the house. There are things that you have to come to the table and say, there are things that I will need help, and you create that support system. Because I'm imagining saying that it's very possible to be at work and then come back home and start playing the household chores that you're supposed to do. You're only one human being. You only have two hands. And, we have 24 hours, really. You have spent, say, 12 hours or 8 hours at work. You come home again. There are things that you may not be able to do. So every woman has to find the balance and say what's important for me and what is my support system, and then you invest that time in your support system. I learned that from a book I read from former CEO for PepsiCo, Dr. Nora Indra Noe. I'll just get the name correctly. That she said that for women, during your peak career, that is when your children really, really needs you. They are growing, they're doing homework, they need you to be there. And you have your career that is also growing. You have demanding things in your career, you have demanding things at home. And she mentioned and she said that support system is the key to getting that life to be balanced. Because you will not manage to do everything. You cannot do it all at once. You may do it all, but not at once. Or you may not have it all. Like having to be, everything is, you're ticking boxes and you're saying perfect mother, perfect wife, perfect employee. There are things that you will be having something depending on the seasons of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, totally agree. And I read her book, really super inspirational, because I think she also rose really up the ranks to being the leading PepsiCo. Yeah, interesting. So I want us as we head towards the end, because I know some of my audience are in campus right now, or in university, young guys starting out, trying to figure out or to map their lives, or like think and dream about 2 years, 5 years, 10 years into their careers. So look back to the time at JKUAT, because that is where we met. What do you remember from that time? What did you study? What do you wish? What do you think you might change if you were taken to first year right now?
Wow, it's good to remember those good old days. I studied analytical chemistry, and interestingly, again, I was the only female in my class. I don't know why that has been following me. I'm the only daughter,
Yeah.
And I was also the only female in my class until in third year, I think we were joined by another lady. I did analytical chemistry, my friend. That chemistry was serious chemistry.
Yeah.
And while in campus, I really invested my time in Christian Union. If you remember, I was a Sunday school teacher. You remember.
Yes, you were so active.
I was so active in church. I was so active in Christian Union and very active. I was a Sunday school teacher. And I think that nurtured me to know how to handle people, because you know what, there are things that we say no experience is invaluable. They really have something and impact you. I miss those campus time. Given time, I think I need to go back to Juja and remember and remind myself those roots of hole 1, hole 2, and the famous hole 6.
Yes, NSC. You guys were most at NSC.
Yes, we spent most of our time in the new science complex. The science one. And there was a building called a C100. I remember we were going to some red hat somewhere up there, going to do, I think, Christian Union stuff, and being in Soret member. I really am grateful for the time I was in campus because I spent it well. Looking back, I spent it well, my time in campus. If there is anything that I'll probably challenge myself is doing the extracurriculum activities. I think the only thing was either I am in the library, in the books, or I am in Christian Union. I did not balance the other part of co-curriculum activities and probably doing these other things. It passed me. It passed very fast. Yeah. But honestly, I really had fun in campus. It was fun. It was fun times. And there are people that are still my friends because we met in campus. I mean, it was an interesting phase of life. Yeah. What I will challenge the young people in campus is that to be very intentional about what you are doing. I was very intentional about my faith. That is what I pursued, and I made sure that I showed up and I did my best. If you feel like academic is the path to pursue, be intentional about it. Not to be all over, and when you touch ground and you ask you what exactly is it that you can put your finger and say you're intentional about it, you can't tell. Of course, because I am a Christian, I will encourage them to really be in the Christian path and be disciplined. There are so many opportunities to be disciplined in campus. There are many opportunities because nobody is watching you. You're a young adult. You have recently found your freedom as a young adult from high school, where there were bells, there were lessons, there were rules. In campus, you're free. You have your own ID. You are a fully Kenyan. And you may look at that freedom and take advantage of it and start going for clubs and going for discos. You have to have what we call discipline. Discipline is what really gives results. And being intentional about what you are doing. What do you want to achieve in campus? Campus has all kind of things you may want to. And there are so many experiments you can do. I want to urge somebody not to do an experiment with their own body. Doing experiments that if you come back when you're an adult and you look back at your campus time and you say, what was I doing? So be very intentional about what you're doing. Be able to say, be disciplined. That's, I think, is the only word I can say. Be disciplined. Yeah? Because even out here in industry, discipline is what is able to sustain you. Because I can tell you, while I was telling you that sitting down for disciplinary hearing for someone or issuing them, that's how people lose jobs, because of being indisciplined, not being able to be consistent. And it is not always a good conversation to have. So as a young person, your parents are not watching you. You are on your own. So be disciplined. It's your time to challenge yourself to say, stay on the course.
Yes. 100%. I agree with you. Now, I have a couple of questions that I want you to reflect back and just give us random answer. The first one is, when you look back to your time at JKUAT 10 years back, have you met someone who gave you a career advice? Reflect to that worst. I want you to pick worst career advice you've ever been given. What was that advice?
I don't know whether it was worst. We were told that when you're an analytical chemist, your first salary will be 80,000 as a graduate.
Was that true or not?
When we came to the reality, my first salary was 30,000. And we were told
Brenda,
Kenya Pipeline.
Yes.
Kenya Pipeline?
Yes.
Everyone in our class were looking forward to be employed with Kenya Pipeline, because that is where they employ analytical chemists, and they are paid 80,000. I remember back, I look at that lecturer, I was wondering, okay, maybe he was trying to tell us there is hope. Yes, to encourage us. And so when you come out there and you go to an interview, ask, what is your expected 80,000. They look at you with no experience, 80K. You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
80,000.
Yeah.
It was a good one, but a bubble that was soon busted when you got out here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll take that. We'll take that. Yeah. What is, if you were to write a book like the book we were talking about, the Indra Nooyi lady? What title will you give it?
I would write my stories. I'll just call it my life and my stories, because I believe that our life is like a book that somebody may read it and they get inspired about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Two last ones. When you look at the world, I know there are so many problems in the world, but if you were to pick one problem that really disturbs you, like you wish if you had all the powers, you would solve this thing and let it go. What is that? What would that be?
You know, the world, we have so many problems.
Yes.
Say if there is anything that I will really try and solve is giving people equal opportunity to get education. Sometimes I walk in my village and I see some people struggle to even go to school. It really pains me. And if I had a solution to have universal way of making people to be in a certain level of education, I think we'll have a better world, because probably we'll be reasoning it better. When you know you have education, you are exposed, you know the things that you can do differently, and your mindset is changed, I think we'll have a better world. Equitable education and just raising up the level that people are, to get everybody to at least be a certain level. Sometimes I look at some children and I look at the kind of schools they go. I think for myself, I was lucky growing up. I was taken to boarding school, and that's the foundation of many of the things that I look back and I appreciate my parents for doing that. And I always look at the young girls that they don't get that education that they would get. I really think if there was a solution to solve that, I would really try and get everybody to be a certain level of empowerment.
Okay. I totally agree, because even personally, I think education has changed my life. And so, yes, equal access to opportunities, especially education, 100% agree. Yes. Now, I forgot to ask, which high school did you go to?
Interestingly, to almost this plantation. I went to Moiti Girls.
Oh, the mighty Moiti. Hey, we really wanted, we looked up to you guys. All right. Now, the reason why I was asking is because I want you just to summarize all this thing and look back to when you were in Moiti, young girl, I don't know, 10 na kitu years, ambitious and whatever. I don't know if you ever thought you would be here at this age, because you've really like climbed the career ladder really fast. Yeah. So when you look back to when you were in Moiti, through JKUAT, through all these multinational companies, to where you are at the moment, what would you say is one lesson you've learned in life?
Let me first surprise you. When you were in Ketepa, I started growing attention to the tea plantation. And when I was a young girl in Ketepa then, I looked at the plantation and I looked at Kericho, because that was a 22-year-old mind thinking. I wanted to come back to Kericho and drive a black car and be a manager in tea plantation. That's what my 22-year-old mind could think and dream of. When I tell someone that way, they're like, but then you're living that dream. Yes. So in the words of Lupita Nyong'o,
Yes.
Whatever thing that you dream of, I'll paraphrase what she said. Whatever dream that you dream of, it is valid. And as Henry Ford puts, whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. So if you wake up today and you think, I can't be a manager, you're right. If you are self-thinking you can't do it, then it's you who calls the shots. But if you wake up and you say, I can do it, and I have that capability, you can. So those are, when I reflect back, those are the things that I really resonates with me. That my dream is very valid. Whatever I dream to do is very valid. So I'll put up action to back up my dream and ensure I get it done. And whether I think I can or I can't, I am right. So I position myself to have the mindset that I can do it. And that's the approach I take up almost everything, even at work. Even if today we go to a meeting and there's a challenge to be solved, when everybody is thinking, who now will do this thing? I know it's very easy to say, let's have the other people to do it, especially for me that I'm in a new working environment, that I've been trying to challenge the status quo. You can say, there are people who have been in this place for 10 years. Can they be the one to do it? But I always raise my hand and say, I can do it. I will have the challenges, but while doing that, there is something good that will come out of it. So those are the things that is my guiding principle. I can do it. Why can't I? Why can't I do it? I mean, who says it's I can't do it? Let me do it, and if I fail, I would have learned a lesson. I would have learned a way of not doing things, And that's how I do things. I've done experiments. I have done things that people look at you and say, why are you trying that? We've done it and it's failed. You're saying, let me do it and see how it would fail. Then I will learn my lessons. Yeah.
And you learn your lessons. Yes. Now, I will not add anything. That is really powerful. And yeah, thank you for sharing. Any last words to mostly speak to my young women professionals? One last word to them.
Women struggle with what we call imposter syndrome, that I have struggled with, when you feel like somehow they will find out that I do not know, or something nags you and you feel like, I am not enough. To every young woman out there, you are enough. And that's who you are. We need you to bring your uniqueness in the world. There is no other person that is like you. My friend Florence Mukiria, it will not be fair if I don't mention her. She's in my board of directors. We call each other our board of directors that guide each other. Have someone that will be your friend to guide you, and somebody that will be telling you things in black and white, will tell you, Hapo is not okay. That direction you've done today, That way, you'll be having somebody called, someone that will be, we call it an accountability partner. Have somebody that when you call and you tell them, today, this is how my day has been. I feel I could have done differently, or what's your thoughts? Then you'll have accountability partner. And thanks to my dearest friend, Florence Mukiria, who is doing that for me. And we do that for each other. In the career, you will have challenges. It is the challenges that bring resilience. It is in those challenges that you pick lessons. And there are things that I always tell the people around me. Understand what is within your control and things that are not within your control. Whether in your relationships, in your work related, put them into these two boxes. What is it that is within my control? What is it that I have the power to influence? Then do things that are within your control. Then categorize these things that are not within your control. I'll give you a very simple analogy. If you go to a place and then it starts raining, for example, is it within your control that it rained? Of course not. You have no power to stop the rain from raining. And so don't work up your emotions and be mad and say, no way, this thing should not have gone in this manner. There are things that are not within your control. Everyday decisions is about what is it that I can do within my control? So I will summarize and say, have an accountability partner. I call them board of BOD members, the board of directors of your life. Somebody that will be very accountable to help you know you're going in the right or the wrong direction. Because sometimes the feedback that we receive as women is not as very nicely. Imposter syndrome. Please stop so much criticizing yourself inside. You know, the inner critic that criticizes you and tell you you're not enough. My friend, you are enough. The way you are, you're okay. Bring that uniqueness and bring that who you are. And understand that this is an imposter. This is something that is nagging you to think that you cannot do. You can. Remove that inner critic. And the other point was you just face the challenges, face the fears and do them. Because if you do not face them, you will not learn anything. And when things are really down there and you feel like you're worked up, separate what is within your control and what is not within your control. And when you feel like you are failing, raise up your hand and seek for support. Don't die with problems. When you have the first one, the accountability partners, they will know that you're almost going down. Because sometimes you can go down, you can feel like it's not working. When you have somebody to always walk around with you, you'll be able to get that support. And most importantly, you can do it. If the other people are doing, why can't you as a young woman? You can definitely do it. Yeah.
You can definitely do it. I will not add anything else. We will end it there. Thank you, Brenda, for coming.
Thank you.